Hello and welcome to another episode of the Inner Coach Classroom with me, Emma Benyon. I'm a multi-certified coach and educator with over 13 years of experience within the education sector. And this podcast is all about helping educators and leaders like you build their inner coach so that you can become more confident, more self-aware, and transform how you work and lead. So, if you are an educator or leader, then you are in the right place for coaching, mindset, and reflection. So, let's dive straight into episode 2 of this first season of the Inner Coach Classroom, where I'm going to talk to you about moments that shape your confidence. Now, confidence as an educator or leader is built from those micro moments. And I think this is really important to recognize. It's built from those micro moments, not from big achievements. And the reason this is really important to note is because often we can be supporting colleagues or students, and we watch over time as they flourish, as they thrive, and they build in confidence. Maybe week 1, they were too scared to put their hand up in class and ask a question. And by week 20, they are stood at the front of the classroom doing a presentation. And it's the same for us as educators, as leaders. Sometimes it can take time to build that confidence. Yet, within education and within being a leader, there can be these confidence crushing moments that absolutely knocks us, that knocks any confidence that we started to build. And so it's really important, and I'm going to build on what we talked about in the previous episode about this idea of reframing and really allowing ourselves that time to reflect so that actually, instead of it sitting as a really negative, it becomes a lesson that we then can use to build our confidence and to take that learning. Now, as an educator myself, you might also, some of these might land with you too. So, in terms of a confidence crushing moment, so a lesson or a session that just does not land with your students, they just don't get it, it doesn't work as you had planned. Perhaps a negative student comment like they're bored in class, or being asked a question, perhaps in a meeting that you just don't have the answer to, potentially struggling to manage a behavioral moment, or having a difficult meeting with a leader, potentially transitioning into a new role and not feeling confident as you take that step, maybe even for interview. And then if you achieve the job and are, I get the job, and then moving into it, the confidence, can be knocked with that too. And then potentially, as maybe you're starting to feel more confident in your role as an educator or leader, and maybe you try something new and you feel judged as a result of that. Now, it's absolutely common and actually evolutionary that our brains latch onto these negative comments because we have what's called a negative bias. And we are prone to, as humans, as a way of keeping us safe, to look for the negatives, to look for the things that might not keep us safe. And that's where this comes in terms of it's all about safety. So there's moments that we take a step out of, our normal comfort zone. We are potentially putting ourselves at risk. And so our brain steps in to try and keep us safe. Now, the more we look for these moments that crush our confidence, the moments that knock us, the more we are going to find them. And that is because our brain is hardwired to look for whatever we set it to. We have what's called our RAS, our reticular activating system. And if we set our intention to look for something, our brain is going to look for it. So, for example, have you ever wanted to buy a new car? Say, for example, it's a yellow Mini. And then everywhere when you're driving, you see yellow minis. You weren't seeing them before you started to focus on getting a yellow mini. And it's the same with those negative moments that we might find in our role as educators or leaders. Once we set our brain to look for them, we are going to find them. So we need to disrupt that. We need to disrupt those moments that might knock our confidence and start to look for what we can learn from those and also those positive moments. Because how often do we focus on the things that went wrong or not as we hoped, rather than those pure moments in the classroom or as a leader that are positive, where our students, our colleagues are taking step forwards, where that student who wouldn't ask a question in class suddenly stands up and does the presentation or answers a question. So, one way that I am really keen that as educators and leaders that we can use to allow us to be reflective, and let's be honest, being reflective is a key part of our practice. Also, to really allow ourselves to reframe is through journaling. And journaling is something I've been teaching for a number of years to my clients because it absolutely can help you to have the space to reflect and also to explore the learning from that too and what you might want to do next. And often writing it down helps to get those thoughts out of our head, which might feel quite overwhelming, quite jumbled, and onto paper. So, what I'm going to invite you to do is either press pause if it's safe for you to do so with this episode, or make a note of it afterwards, or you can find the prompt that I'm going to share in the show notes too. And I want you to grab some pen, a paper and a pen even, and I'm going to give you a journaling prompt to just sit and reflect on those difficult interactions or moments that knocked your confidence. And I want you to think about one that you may want to explore multiple ones. And I want you to think about, and this is the prompt, what else could be true? So, in that moment when your confidence feels knocked and the session just hasn't landed with the students, what else could be true of that? And I wonder what will come up for you. And with that, as you explore that prompt and potentially feel quite vulnerable, I want to offer some reassurance that even confident educators or those that appear confident have those wobbly moments too, where their confidence is knocked. And what we need to remember and always come back to is that we are always learning too. We are in the role of supporting others to learn, yet we are always learning too. And we should be absolutely open to that development. So I hope that from this episode, that has really allowed you to explore why we might feel like our confidence has been knocked and why we are hardwired to sit in that negative bias. Yet we can also use it as an opportunity to learn, to develop, and to reflect on our practice so that we can build that confidence. And remember that that comes over time. It's not an overnight fix. And so, thank you for listening to today's episode. I really hope that you have enjoyed it, and I'd love to hear your reflections. So, why not come and chat to me over on my socials on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram? And you can find the links in the show notes. Now, if you have enjoyed this episode and you don't want to miss the next one, then please make sure you follow and subscribe. And if you have absolutely loved it, then please do leave a review. I would really appreciate it. So until next time, let's continue to build your inner coach together, one episode at a time.